DeFuniak Springs, Florida, has a rich history that traces its origins to the late 19th century, rooted in the development of the railroad and a vision for a cultural and educational retreat in the Florida Panhandle. The area, originally inhabited by Native Americans for thousands of years, saw significant change with the arrival of European settlers and the expansion of infrastructure in the region. The town's story begins with the incorporation of the Pensacola and Atlantic Railroad by the Florida State Legislature on March 4, 1881. As surveyors charted a route from Pensacola eastward, they encountered a striking, nearly perfectly round lake surrounded by virgin forest. W.D. Chipley, a key figure in the railroad's development, recognized the spot's potential and designated it as a future town site, naming it after Frederick R. DeFuniak, the president of the railroad. Initially called Lake DeFuniak, the name later evolved to DeFuniak Springs, reflecting the natural springs feeding the lake. The Lake DeFuniak Land Company was formed in 1885 by Chipley and other visionaries like T.T. Wright and C.C. Banfield to transform this stop along the tracks into a thriving community. DeFuniak Springs was envisioned as a resort destination, drawing heavily on the Chautauqua movement, a popular adult education and cultural initiative that began in New York in 1874. In 1885, the town hosted its first Florida Chautauqua, attracting visitors from across the region for lectures, performances, and educational programs. This cultural focus distinguished DeFuniak Springs and fueled its early growth. The Chautauqua Hall of Brotherhood, completed in 1909, became a centerpiece of this movement, boasting a 4,000-seat auditorium and modern amenities like color-dissolving lighting. At the time, it was considered the most advanced auditorium in the South, though its grandeur was later diminished when Hurricane Eloise destroyed much of the structure in 1975, leaving only the front lobby and classrooms intact. The town's commitment to education extended beyond the Chautauqua. In 1886, it hosted a pivotal meeting of teachers that led to the founding of the Florida Education Association, a teachers' union that remains influential today. DeFuniak Springs also housed early educational institutions like the State Normal School, circa 1885, which later moved to Tallahassee and evolved into Florida State University, as well as Palmer College, 1907 to 1936, and the Thomas Industrial Institute, 1913 to 1924. The Walton DeFuniak Library, established in 1886, claims the title of Florida's oldest continuously operating library in its original building, preserving a tangible link to this intellectual heritage. Settled primarily by Scots from Virginia and the Carolinas, DeFuniak Springs grew around its railroad routes and the appeal of Lake DeFuniak, one of only two nearly perfectly round spring-fed lakes in the world, the other being in Sweden. The town was officially incorporated in 1901, and its historic district, centered on Circle Drive, retains much of its Victorian charm. Many homes built by early residents, such as Wallace Bruce, a prominent author and Florida Chautauqua president, and Isabella McDonald Alden, a beloved children's novelist known as Pansy, still stand, contributing to the area's roughly 200 historic structures, about 40 of which are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Throughout the 20th century, DeFuniak Springs maintained its reputation as a cultural hub. An annual music festival in the 1930s and 40s drew thousands to hear bands compete, while the first Arbor Day in Florida was celebrated here on December 17, 1885, during the Southern Forestry Congress, with some of those original trees believed to still grace the lake's shores. The historic train depot, built in 1882, now houses the Walton County Heritage Museum, reflecting the town's railroad legacy. Today, DeFuniak Springs blends its storied past with a quiet, small-town atmosphere. Events like the revived Florida Chautauqua Assembly and the Christmas Reflections light display, featuring millions of lights around the lake, keep its traditions alive. Located about 50 miles inland from the Gulf Coast, the city of roughly 6,500 residents remains the seat of Walton County, offering a mix of history, nature, and community spirit that continues to draw visitors and preserve its unique identity.